Mary Kim Titla, boy, I'll tell you, if you win the congressional race, everybody in broadcasting is going to say, oh, yeah, no, my good friend, Mary Kim Titla. You know, we drop names like mad when any of us actually get real work. You really want this job, having covered this in the news for so long? You want to be in Congress?
Absolutely. And, you know, when I first jumped in the race, I asked myself two questions. And that is, number one, are you content with the way things are in America? And my answer is no. Absolutely not. And number two, can you really make a difference? And I believe I can. I've been out of the news business, the TV news business, I should say, for 2.5 years now. I'm plugged back into my own community, the San Carlos Apache Reservation, where I sit on community boards trying to make a difference. And, you know, this really wasn't an ambition of mine. I was asked about a year ago to consider a run for Congress.
By the Democratic Party?
By some members of the Democratic Party, yes, absolutely. And I gave it a lot of thought and did some soul searching, prayed about it, and then decided, you know what, yes, let's do it. And it was with overwhelming response from voters and my family, of course, and who encouraged me to run.
I can just see it now, though. This is exciting. As they introduce the new Congress people to the already seated members of Congress. And now, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues of the House of Representatives, let me introduce to you, from Arizona, District 1, Mary Kim Lightning. Right?
You did the research.
Oh, well, no, I speak fluent Apache.
Actually, Titla is a shortened version of an Apache word, Hada Titla, which means lightning. So you're absolutely right.
But how exciting that is. You know, all of a sudden, a little lightning in Congress probably isn't going to hurt anybody anyway. But what in media really prepares you? Most of us who have been doing this in radio and television for a while tend to look caustically and often hypercritically at our elected officials, digging out all of those little things, now more than ever before. So what is it that prepares you to be one?
Well, you know, most people expect the same things of an elected official that they do of a journalist. They expect you to be trustworthy. They expect you to be fair and balanced. They expect you to have high ethical standards. They expect you to have good communication skills. So I bring all of that with me. And in that sense, the transition has been easy. I've been talking to people one-on-one, voters, essentially. I've been in Arizona in doing the news in good times and bad times. I've been covering the same issues that I'm talking about today: education, the economy, the war in Iraq, healthcare. I've covered those issues for nearly 20 years. So am I knowledgeable about the issues? Absolutely. Have I lived the issues? Absolutely. And that's what I offered to Congressional District 1, is my life experiences. Of all of the candidates who are running, I'm the only one that can honestly say I've lived in poverty. I've lived without electricity and plumbing up until the age of 8. We lived in a 2-room house with my grandparents. I know what it's like to have to make ends meet.
You were nearly adopted, weren't you?
I was, because my parents had me at a very young age and were very concerned about whether they could provide a good life for me.
Your dad was 16.
He was 16 years old. He had 2 of us by the time he graduated from high school.
Right. So they seriously considered the idea that we can't handle any more children. What changed their mind? Did they ever tell you?
Yes, they did. And it's this whole idea of love. And my father finally convinced my mom and said, you know what, let's make a go of it. We can't offer her much, but we can offer her love. And they raised me with a set of values that helped get me to where I'm at today. Number one, education is the key to success. And so as the eldest of 5 children, I was expected to be the role model. So I went on. I was the first in my family to get an education. 4 younger brothers and sisters followed suit. But the amazing part of the story is that my parents quit their jobs, joined my youngest brother in college, and graduated with him from Grand Canyon University.
When I read that, I thought, wow, you talk about inspiring, you know. And you lived on the reservation.
Yes.
What reservation?
The San Carlos Apache Reservation.
A res girl.
That's what they call me, a res girl.
Okay, so you know about how tough it is to get people to graduate from high school in reservation life. You also know about the health problems that exist on most reservations. Is your focus going to be on Native American life, or is it going to be for everybody in District 1?
Well, you know, the Native American population makes up about 22% of Congressional District 1.
Tell us where that is, by the way.
Congressional District 1 is basically half the state of Arizona. It's larger than some states. It's about the size of the state of Illinois. Just think in terms of, okay, the Utah border, all the way down almost to Tucson, Flagstaff to the New Mexico border, and almost everything in between. Of course, going around Maricopa County doesn't include Maricopa County. So it's huge. It's huge. But getting back to your question, I am going to represent everyone who lives in Congressional District 1. My being Native American, of course, helps me to relate to the Native American population. But because I've been able to move away from the reservation, live in the so-called non-Indian world, become a successful TV news reporter, people have certain expectations of me. They get it. They understand that, you know what, this is someone who's made it, someone who knows what it's like to live off the reservation, and they appreciate that. And so I'm very encouraged when I go out into the community. Of course, the first thing that people say to me is, I watched you for so many years in TV. So that's the connection. And then you build on that, and you talk about issues.
Well, they did that with J.D.
Yeah.
They did that with J.D., and that familiarity that he had as a sports announcer fared well for a while. But then he still had to represent his district politically, and he did, and was reelected on a number of occasions. But I have so many questions to ask you, particularly about that district and Mr. Renzi and your predecessors, the people who have been in that seat in prior years and who you follow. We've got so much to talk about with Mary Kim Titla. Saw her all too rarely as a journalist because she was so busy, and now she wants to go to Washington. I still want to know why, and we'll continue to pursue that when we get back on the Pat McMahon Show on AZTV.